Your attention is your godly estate. Your attention is your power. I decided I was not allowing fear anymore to run roughshod over me, consciousness. The very first thing I noticed after I died was that the world was a dream. I believe that if we could really get mass lucidity going, it would sweep the world.
Guy here, welcome to my Letter In podcast. I am here in Melbourne and you can see the door behind me to the Abbotsford Conference where we're running our actual one-day workshop today. Anyway, my beautiful guest, I welcome back to the podcast, Callaghan. And this was an extremely powerful podcast. I love her. She's a straight shooter. She says it as it is and has a very powerful message. The depths of where this podcast goes, from her own journey to her own near-death experience to overcoming anxiety and medication, it's incredible, honestly. And this is an episode, if you know somebody in similar circumstances, please share it with them. This could help somebody no end. Let me know where in the world you are on the YouTube comments below. It's always lovely to connect, and as more and more listeners continue to come to the podcast, I'll quickly show you inside. Look, so sorry for you guys in audio, but the ones in video, this is quite a stunning place. And then you can see up there, I caught Matt. Look, he's doing some work up there, getting the sound gear up. I think we've got about 75 people coming, spending 8 hours with us today as we get into some sound journeys, breath work, but more importantly, the foundations of the work. And we'll be doing some energy healing towards the end as well. So it's going to be a very special day. I always get excited bringing this in front of people. Anyway, links are below if you want to find out more of what we're up to around the world. We've got the free HEARTT guide as well, printed out, stick it on your fridge. That'll be below as well. Anyway, myself from me, and I will see you soon. Enjoy the podcast. Cailin, welcome back.
Thank you so much, Guy. I'm so glad to be back. I think of you often, and I watch your show, and I think how precious you are and the great work that you're doing, and I'm really pleased to be back.
Oh, fabulous. I'm honored. Yeah, it's interesting. The podcast and the YouTube is reaching a lot of people now. I get people commenting from all parts of the world, which is fabulous. Absolutely fabulous.
Yes,
it's
really
one of the great benefits of technology that can be used for good. That's for sure.
Yes, it is a great benefit when we use technology for everyone.
Exactly.
For everyone's edification, instead of like cloistering it to a certain groups.
Yeah. So look, I know you're returning back on the podcast. The last episode we did extremely well. I think it's way up over 100,000 views now, just on YouTube alone, which is fabulous. Yeah, I know, right? And
wow.
But I have no doubt there'll be many listeners new to you today in the work, and I certainly encourage people to go and check out our last podcast that we did together many months ago now. But
yes,
how would you just briefly? I'll ask you the same question, but if you were at an intimate dinner party and somebody asks you, what do you do for a living? What are you most passionate about? How would you respond?
I am a writer of spiritual books and a spiritual coach and a content creator for podcasts. My mission is the lucidification of the venue of Earth venue, the rise in people knowing their true self as consciousness itself, conscious of itself. I am an NDE, and my experience of myself when I was in the lustrous past was that I am love. And so I tend to think of life, love, consciousness, all the same thing. We are love that is conscious. And when I returned, having been shown the message that I deliver now, it was out of massive compassion and love for the world. I saw that if people understood who they are, what they are, and they observed themselves unconsciously creating their own suffering, that they could then learn to consciously create their joy, their bliss. And so I came back to deliver that perspective because all of this is correctable with the shift, the awakening. Everybody talks about the shift and the awakening, but nobody really talks about what exactly it is. So that's what I do. I teach awakening, lucidity in the theme of the word.
There's a few anchor points that are sparking in different directions for me, and one is you speak about the lucidity of the world. The other is the shift and the awakening that is happening as we speak, because that's definitely a common conversation, especially in these kind of podcasts, that are circling out there as well. And I think, and the other thing you mentioned as well is about relief from our own suffering. That you alluded to, that we actually cause our own suffering in some ways through our awareness. Most of the time.
Or lack thereof.
Yeah, which is a very hard concept to wrap your head around, especially if you've been a victim to other circumstances and scenarios as well.
I'm not saying we cause the events over which we suffer.
Absolutely.
Although that can happen too. I'm saying that when the events over which we suffer happen, there are a variety of ways to handle it cognitively and emotionally and perceptually. And the only healing that ever needs to be done is in perception. If you regard yourself a victim of a situation, you are automatically kind of predestining yourself to more suffering than is necessary. I was sexually assaulted when I was 5 years old. I carried that with me, a feeling of being ruined and unsuitable and less than for many, many years. And I carried a lot of anger and guilt and shame. And the anger was towards the man who had assaulted me. And then at about the age of 38, I realized that he had taken maybe 15 minutes of my existence and twisted it to his own pleasure, and that I had given him the subsequent 36, 35, 34 years because he lived rent free, so to speak, in my head because I had not forgiven him. So you don't forgive another person because for them, it's through yourself. Okay. And so one of the greatest leaps I made in my peace, my spiritual development, which I measure by peace. How much peace do you have? Peace of mind. Was I let everybody off the hook all at once, myself included. I mean, there was a day when I came to Jesus, so to speak, in that regard. And I let everyone off the hook, forgave it all. And that was just so liberating. And I felt so much lighter, and it really changed the way I was able to deal with a series then of disasters and sad things that happened right after that. And I was so surrendered that they didn't affect me. I didn't suffer with them because I had shifted from being identified with a story of a character who had that thing happen to her when she was a little girl. I had shifted away from identification with that story to being consciousness that perceived the story, that assigned the meanings. I was no longer the story. I was the one who decided what it meant. This made a remarkable difference because I became the architect of my self-talk. And most people are run roughshod over by their mind which constantly attacks their peace because of things they've done or said or things that happened to them, okay? And what meanings they assign. And those meanings doom them to further suffering. So that's what I mean about causing our own suffering. Yes, things happen, But how you talk to yourself about those determines how much you're going to suffer from them.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing. I
Pardon my bird.
I was going to say I can
I
hear something going off in the background there.
Tiny little parrot net about that's all it is. Okay, chicken man, that's all right.
Is chirping in with you. No, I deeply appreciate you sharing so vulnerably and honestly, because it really puts into context then the journey that you've been on and continue, and how you support others. And I think it's really so valuable, and I can feel now.
The most wonderful, horrible thing that ever happened to me
Yeah.
was Lexapro withdrawals in 2021.
Okay.
And I went through that and Percocet withdrawals at the same time because I had had a serotonin syndrome episode that was bad.
What are those drugs? Sorry, I'm not familiar with them.
Lexapro is an antidepressant.
Okay.
And they gave it to me for anxiety in 2017. And I was having rolling anxiety attacks. I had become afraid of the fear, right? I'd become afraid of the anxiety. So it was compounded. I would have this little, sort of cockroach thought run through my mind space saying, something must be done. Something must be done. And I would say to it, what? What needs to be done? And it would say, the moment I shine the light of my attention on it, it would like disappear into the walls of my mind space saying, nothing, nothing. So anxiety is like that. It's just a sense of dread that something needs to be done. So, and it can set off a chemical event cascade in your body that is an anxiety attack that we all just hate. It's quite the roller coaster. Okay. And so they put me on the Lexapro, and then it nearly killed me several times with serotonin syndrome. And I had to quit it suddenly after a serious cardiac situation with serotonin syndrome. And I went through 9 months of withdrawals, and it was literally hell because every undigested bilious thought, all the betrayal, all the rage, all the fear, all the pain, everything, now unmedicated, plus I'm in terrible bodily pain. When you take that drug away, it causes the worst sensation, other than feeling like you've got the flu really bad, is it felt like someone was stabbing me all over my body simultaneously in the muscles with tiny little stainless steel cocktail swords, okay, everywhere, because the nerve endings are going, and the dread. If you've ever had a nightmare where you couldn't waken and you're trying to run and you can't run, and everything's like running, it was like that for 9 months. And my brain, in so much distress, constantly urged me to pick up something and end my life. Use that knife. Get the gun. Drugs. What do we have enough? It's like that. And that went on for 9 months. And I had to be consciousness at that point realized consciousness did not have to participate in the anxiety attacks. So every time that little cockroach thought ran through my mind, I would instantly turn my attention, because your attention is your godly estate. Your attention is your power, okay? What you put your attention on, you are literally investing in creating, okay? That is your creative force. So I would put my attention on something else. I'd assemble a cabinet that I bought, racks for inside the closets, etc. For 9 months, I couldn't sleep. I didn't sleep at all for a week at first. And then I started catching little cat naps and stuff. But I had to remain very present to keep my body, like the brain says, roll over in bed. It kept saying, kill the body, make this stop, make this stop, make this stop. So I had to be really present to supervise the mind. And so a big gap grew between me, consciousness, and the mind. Okay. As I realized the mind was not me. The mind was attacking my peace. And I started examining the self-talk, observing it. And I saw how my self-talk would just be horrible. And it was perpetuating my suffering. And so the self-talk's going through the brain, and I would just say, that's enough, stop. Okay, that's enough, stop. And when I noticed that at first it would not stop, okay, the mind would not stop, I then began realize, okay, if I make the mind work on something, I starve the attention energy from the anxiety. I starve the attention energy from the suffering self-talk, and I put it into something productive. Okay, then that all died down. All of that negativity that was amplifying the suffering, it died down. Okay, so over the course of 9 months, a huge gap of perceived who is who and what is what. The expression know thyself is very critical because everyone's identified with their mind or their story or their possessions, their victim status, whatever. None of that is you. What is you is consciousness itself, observing. And if you will observe your self-talk, you will see how it makes you suffer. Okay, you will see, you'll catch yourself, your mind is going. The mind is essentially a model of the world, that we're model building creatures. And all of us have in mind space our theory of everything, of how things work. And we build this model originally unconsciously from things people say to us, things we observe growing up as children, inferences we make about why things happened the way they did, okay? And none of it, while we're building this model, are we actually interrogating. None of it are we actually supervising. It's just happening unconsciously. So we're not saying, no, wait a minute, is this thing I'm adding to my mind right now true? Is it going to serve me or is it going to make me unhappy? Okay. So one by one, I went through my self-talk and I started interrogating it during this withdrawal process, saying, what am I really saying in this emotion? Distill it down. What am I saying? And then I would say, is that true? Usually the answer was no. If it was a little bit of truth, I'd say, well, is it fair to everyone involved, or is it just painting me as the victim or the hero? And usually I had to admit it was not fair to everyone involved. Okay. And lastly, if it passed those two tests, I would say, well, is it serving me or is it making me miserable? And I could do that and drop things. I found right out as consciousness, I could just suspend things. I could just decide after this shift happened from being identified with the mind to being lucid in the dream of the world. Because what you say to yourself, you hypnotize yourself into the dream of experiencing. That's it. What you say to yourself, you hypnotize yourself into experiencing that dream. Okay. So if you don't look for what you don't want to find. Don't say to yourself what you don't want to experience it. Don't think it. Don't write it. This is why silence is golden. The universe wants to give you all the goodness you deserve as a godling. All right. The problem is you give the universe a lot of mixed signals. You'll say, I'm love, I'm light. And then the next minute, your self-talk is hating on someone who you don't think is love and light. You judge them and you decide they're bad. Okay. And that puts you in an ambiguous signal to the universe. I am love, I am light, but I hate that bastard. Okay. So we have to learn to be a coherent signal to the universe so it can give us what we want. All right. And so a big part of that is stopping the unnecessary self-talk, which most people find very difficult. And so I suggest a backup plan is something much more active, where you use your mind intentionally, wielding it to actually create an experience that you want through what I call imaginifestation. Okay. You very, very vividly, with all of your focused attention, Even if you have to just do it one little aspect at a time, you create the experience you want. And you say, what good does it do you? Well, it changes your electromagnetic field and makes your field, which is a key that opens the doors to event cascades. And if you, by being the architect of your self-talk and where you put your attention and your manifestations, you can change your field. So now you're a match for the doors you actually want to walk through, instead of being a match for more of the same suffering that you've been doing for years.
Can I jump in?
Please.
Thank you. Yeah. Before we get into the manifestation more and start to unpack that, I'm curious to your thoughts on navigating the anxiety bit and the antidepressants bit, because when you look at the world today, there's a lot of perpetuation of fear that's constant. We live in a system that's craves on fear. It's like there's an energetic hunger for it. And if we're unconscious, we tend to allow that to dominate our lives, and we give up our own power to something outside of ourselves because we don't recognize the divinity within ourselves. And
Correct.
When we talk about anxiety, I'm not sure what the statistics are, but I'm pretty sure they're very high. How many people actually suffer anxiety at the moment in the Western world?
Very high. I don't know what it is, but it's got to be very high.
And then of course the model is then, if you're suffering anxiety, instead of exploring what's underneath that, we just numb it with pharmaceutical drugs, chemistry,
right,
without getting to the root. And I
chemical chainmail.
Exactly.
Chemical chainmail.
So you're somebody that's walked that path. So I'd love to explore, what do you believe anxiety is now today, with the footsteps you've taken and the journey you've gone through? How do you look at actually what anxiety is, what was underneath that for you, and what allowed you to overcome that? Once, because you obviously did the hard way, right? Especially with all those chemicals inside your body as well.
Yeah. Two things here. First of all of the pathology that causes anxiety is in your self-talk. It's not in the consciousness.
That's big.
It's not in the true self. Once you shift to being identified as the true self, all of that stuff you were saying to yourself, your beliefs. In the middle of the word belief is the word lie. Okay. So I say the belief system. Okay. All right. Because we say we tell ourselves a lot of unexamined untruths. And they become, and by unexamined, I mean you don't bring the light of your conscious attention to them so that you can say, is it true? Is it serving me? So the thing is if you can provoke the shift by doing the observation of what am I saying to myself? Is it true? Is it serving me? If you can provoke the shift, the anxiety dies. Abruptly. I mean, instantly almost, all right? I have not had an anxiety attack since 2021, November, and I'm on no medication. And it's because for me, each person's anxiety is different. For me, I don't want to fail people that rely on me. I want to do the right thing. I don't want to look into the eyes of someone who's trusted me and see their disappointment. That's just a crusher. Right, for me, right? And so it's a sense of responsibility to others to not let them down. And also, I came back to the world to deliver this message and I hadn't really done it yet. It was Lexapro Withdrawals that made me go, I'd better deliver this message because I'm 66 years old and I might die at any time. And I don't want everything I've gone through coming back to the world to deliver this message to have been for nothing, right? So I don't find it's necessary to figure out what the anxiety is about. I find it's necessary to provoke the shift away from the mind so that you become its architect and its supervisor, because the mind is creating the anxiety. What has happened is something in your mind is a software program you feed the brain. It's a model. You feed it the brain uses it then to seek sustenance and avoid loss and pain. All right. So when something in the mind has been, what is the word I want to use here? When it has been overemphasized because it's associated with trauma, it's vested with a lot of trauma energy. Okay. Then the brain will perseverate over it. The brain will take that and go, we don't want that to happen again. Oh my God. And it'll perseverate and create anxieties. For me, it was a fear of sexual assault because we kind of live in a rape culture in this country. And I saw it getting worse with what was happening in our elections and stuff. You know, I mean, it's just immune to it. You know? And it set off PTSD, which lives in the body. PTSD is in the body. It is not in the consciousness itself. It's in the mind, it's in the body. And so for me, it was a matter of noticing the difference between me, consciousness, and the mind, and then taking ownership of the mind, being its steward, interrogating it. Is what I'm saying to myself true? Is it serving me? And from the state of being consciousness itself, you can just drop things. Now, that's once the shift occurs. You can go through this exercise by rote without the shift, and it's probably not going to work for you. But once you have been pushed into disidentifying with the mind, and I was by this chemical situation, you realize what you are. You don't believe the mind anymore. You no longer feel like you have to participate. I literally starved anxiety to death. Anxiety gets all its power over you from your attention to it. The cockroach thought runs through your head and you think, oh no, not this again. And the heart and the sweating and the shortness of breath and the nausea and the bowels, all right? And anxiety attack, all right? If instead, when that cockroach thought runs through your mind, you shift into interrogator mode, you've had enough of this nonsense, you're not putting it up with it anymore from the mind, you say to the cockroach thought, what? What needs to be done? And if the cockroach thought doesn't give you something actionable, it's just anxiety. It's just a symptom. It doesn't mean anything. You assign meaning to it, you get all scared. Oh my God, anxiety attack, bad. Ooh, ooh. It's when the cockroach thought runs through your mind, you ask it, what needs to be done? And if it doesn't give you something actionable, you say, that is just anxiety. Now, I'm going to take my attention, which would normally feed that anxiety attack, and I'm going to do math. That's what I did often. If I didn't have a cabinet to assemble or a rack to assemble or some project to put my attention on, okay, I would sit there and do math. I'd start doing addition, subtraction, division, multiplication, just do it. And the anxiety attack just peters out because your brain is like this tangle of neuronal connections that can happen. They can all happen, all right? And anxiety is a particular pathway of chemical event cascade of neuronal connections, a particular circuit. If you put your attention on the circuit, it goes to completion. You have an anxiety attack. If you put your attention on math, the anxiety attack just dies. Literally, it works that easily. It's just a matter of people knowing. Now, I was going to die if I didn't learn this, so I learned it.
There's not a bigger motivator than that, is it? And when you're anxious, you can feel like you're dying. You know, I love how you broke it all down because we see it all the time at our retreats, Cailin. Honestly, we hold 5-day retreats, right? And people come in anxious, and when they realize that there's a trauma stored in the body. And unconsciously, this is the way I've kind of pieced it in my own mind, is that there's a chemical dependency upon that trauma that's keeping their body to think it's safe, but it's causing such anxiety, which of course is firing off into the mind. And to separate yourself to be the witness to that, once they get it, and once they and know how to hold space so the body can release that underlying root that's causing that, it's life-changing. It's absolutely life-changing.
Yes. And that was, for me, it was just, I don't have to participate in this anymore. I don't have to participate. So what I would do is I would just let the body do whatever it was going to do, and I did math. And the body would say, you could be dying. You're 60 some odd years old, okay? You could be dying. It could be your heart. And I would say, great, I've been dead before. It was lovely. Anything is better than this. I didn't care, all right? Once you get to that place where you're so miserable.
Here's the thing, though. Your main ingredient there was willingness, right? You were like, you're 100% now. You're all in. There's no messing around anymore. That's it.
No.
That's it.
That's it. I'm done. I've had it.
And what is your advice to other people? Because people tell themselves they're willing. Yes, I'm going to change. But ultimately, when the rubber meets the road, when the action is required, they back off as well.
They lose their lucidity. When I say lose your lucidity, you fall into identification with some story that you're telling yourself that is emotionally charged. You've lost your lucidity in the dream of the world. Listen, the very first thing I noticed after I died, after my body fell off, okay, was that the world was a dream. The world was a dream. And I had been trained by my guide since I was 5 years old to start becoming lucid in dreams. And I kept just waking up from the dreams. And he would say, no, don't wake up from the dream. Stay in the dream. And I'd say, but why? It's a bad dream. He'd say, no, because only the lucid dreamer can change the dream. But my Cailin, you have to stay in the dream to change it. Okay, so all of my life, every time I came close to being suicidal, he would come into mind space and say, you have to stay in the dream to change it. Okay? And then the last big revelation that I had with him was in 2007 when he came to me and he showed me a whole bunch of stuff. But what it came down to was, I taught you lucidity. I told you stay in the dream. I was looking for a way to kill myself at that time and make it look like an accident. Right? And I wasn't despairing. I'd just been in too much physical pain for too long. I was just done, And he came into mind space saying, no, you have to stay in the dream to change it. You came back into this world to deliver this message because lucidity can change the world. It is the awakening. It is the shift. This is what the world needs, this message, okay? So you have to stay in the dream to change it. And I'm telling you, every time you imagine yourself to be some suffering character in a dream, you have hypnotized yourself with your self-talk into having a dream in which you fall into identification with that story you're telling yourself. The world is a dream.
So let me give us some clarity on this so I get it, because I'm just want to ensure. So what you're saying is that the identification is the daydreaming of the dream. Would that be a fair way to say? Because that's the story, right? That's not real. That's just what we're there. But the life...
Everything that you tell yourself about yourself, what you're capable of, what you can do, that it's too late, that it's not too late, whatever you're telling yourself is the experience you fall into. It is the dream you create for yourself.
Right. And life being a dream. So when you say lucidity, what are you like? Can you unpack that a bit more for me, please? For the listeners.
Don't be identified as your body. Don't be identified as the story, the history, your victim story, your sad story that you're carrying around as your excuse for it's okay for why you failed. It was too hard to begin with. The odds were stacked against me. This is how we predispose ourselves to failure. or give ourselves an out. We tell ourselves a story and we fall into identification with that story. Or your mind. The last thing, people fall into identification with their mind. They don't realize they can change it. They have all power over it. Your mind is your servant, not your sovereign. You are the sovereign. You are consciousness. You are God, in fact. You're just not all of God, but you're all God. There's nothing here but God. So lucidity is stay abiding as the metacognitor. You know what metacognition is?
I know what metacognition is.
It's observing your own cognition, right?
Yeah.
Observing your own self. Abiding as the metacognitor, witnessing the way what you say to yourself actually shows up in your experience. Because the more you do this, you discover what you say to yourself becomes your experience. Okay? So when you're in victim status, you're saying everything's happening to me. And when you start to awaken, you say, oh, it's all happening for me. It was happening to show me stuff. It was teaching me. And then when you're really lucid, you realize, no, it's all happening through me. All right. You can get on the telephone with the county and you expect a difficult conversation because it's a bunch of bureaucrats, whatever. You can be sitting there saying to yourself ahead of time, well, it's not going to go well. Okay, blah, blah, blah. And guess what? It won't go well. But if instead you're saying to yourself, this is going to go perfectly. I'm going to speak with authenticity to the person on the other end of the phone out of my humanity to their humanity, and I'm going to make them my friend, and it's going to go brilliant. And just so it goes brilliantly. Okay? So every moment that you can spend in observation of the way your self-talk predetermines the way events unfold. And then you begin to say, it's all happening through me.
Do you, I wonder often about this, like what our lives would be like if we'd been taught this from the get-go.
So,
right? And what the world would look like.
But they don't. Yes. But you know what? There are people who know this. There are people who realize this. They have a lot more charge and power over their lives. And it's really not in our present structure of society in the world's best interest that everyone be sovereign consciousness, because we're much less controllable.
We'd also be much more loving to each other.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I agree. But the idea that people that are sovereign and in control of themselves and lucid in the dream of the world are going to be difficult to control, and we're going to lose power over the situation, cause a perpetuation of the situation that we have, where we're constantly bombarded with things to take our attention, which is our godly estate. We're constantly bombarded with things to make us frightened. Even the media outlets have determined that frightened people check the news more often and angry people check the news more often. And so they used to couch everything in just clean, not emotionally charged terms. Here's the news, here's what happened, you make what you will of it. Now they couch everything in the most provocative, scary terms possible, so that the scared and angry people will come back and check the news more often, and they can sell more ad space.
Yeah.
So people have a very stupid idea of what profit is. Okay. They have an idea that the only definition of profit is money and resource. They don't realize that literally they are destroying lives and wrecking the electromagnetic field. What they bring to the collective field is disruption. They're not bringing love to the field. They're not bringing authenticity. They're not bringing their humanity. So they don't realize that's not profit. That's why a lot of very rich people who are very much in control of what's going on in the world, or they're the ones who are more in control than we are, they're not happy. They're not happy. I would rather be me than them. I'd rather be me with money. But I'd rather be me than them, even as it is, right? because this is 2021. I went through Lexapro withdrawals and end of November 2021, and since then everything has been much better for me. I'm feeling healthier and younger than I have in decades.
Yeah, and you mentioned something at the beginning of the podcast I want to raise now, and it's something I found in my own journey too, about just deeper states of peace and the ability to live from that state. I still get frustrated. I still, get triggered here and there, but my default space now is that peace, and it really takes the push out of anything out there, the striving. Yeah. And it's a much more case of being, and I'm finding things continue to unfold with what we do with our work and even my family life and everything, and I just much better surrendering to it these days. What have you learned around that for yourself? Because I think it'd be a great time, because it's so easy to get pulled into the vortex of what's going on in the world, and the perpetuated fear. Because you speak of your guides, I know we spoke of Michael, we haven't even touched upon yet today, those deeper states of peace and navigating it. Like, how are you what would your advice be to help support people navigate these challenging times, to allow them to start to connect, especially if you're in anxiety or if you're unhappy in your world, because it can feel such a reach for many people?
I would say the first thing you have to do, and I did this when I was barraged with anxiety all the time, is be very careful about what you allow into your mind space through your eyes and ears. Don't watch anything negative on TV. Don't watch anything scary on TV. Don't watch things that outrage you. Don't push your own buttons. We're like dogs barfing up what made us sick and then going back to eat it again. Really, we are. We constantly go back to, oh, Jesus, that made me feel horrible. I'm going to go check on it again, And, really, we do that. We pick at the scab. We don't just let it heal. We just keep going back to it. None of that is going to make a change in your environment. Okay. And what you cannot change, you need to set aside. All right. You need to, if you can't change it, and it's not your job to change it in the second place, you need to stop perseverating on it. Don't give it any more of your attention, because your attention will make it blow up and fill up your experience. Put your attention on things. Imagifest instead of worrying. It's an active process. Imagifest what you will to be the outcome instead of what you fear the outcome will be. Do not put your attention on. This is very interesting. Now, just as an aside, I was living in the north of Florida, and I got hit by 3 hurricanes in 18 months. They went right over my house, okay? And I was traumatized because these were strong storms. It did a lot of damage, all right? And it seemed like after the first storm, the trauma was worse. I was just horrified it was going to happen again, and it did. And I was horrified it would happen again, and it did. And then I moved, okay? I moved, and I'm 180 miles from the Gulf now. Before I was 69 miles from the Gulf. I'm 180 miles from the very little likelihood all the trees here are lofty, all right? Because storms don't get this far inland and do a lot of damage, all right? So now, all summer long, instead of watching during the hurricane season every little swirl on the weather map, which I'm a climatology buff, instead of watching all that and perseverating, going, not that, dear God, not that, and getting more hurricanes, there has been one strong hurricane in the Atlantic Basin this year. And they predicted they predicted like 6 or 7 strong hurricanes in the Atlantic this year. Is a good one. Okay, so the meteorologists will come to you and they'll say, the model shows that there might be a little swirl that kicks up over here in a couple of weeks, and everybody should watch that spot and keep in touch with the Weather Channel because it just takes one hurricane to destroy everything and we could all be killed. They make everything sound really catastrophic and they tell everybody, watch this spot, watch this spot, watch this spot. So then you've got how many million viewers that the Weather Channel has going, not that, not that, not that. And guess what you get when you think not that? You get that. So put your mind on manifesting the outcome you want. Okay. And I'm not saying if a hurricane comes, don't get out of its way. I'm saying don't perseverate on what you cannot change and what you fear may occur. Instead, vividly manifest the outcomes you want. Makes them more likely, and you're borrowing a future you want. Instead of borrowing trouble from in a future you don't want, you're borrowing experience. I mean, if you can stay in the present moment, that's ideal. That's consciousness encapsulated in itself, not assigning meanings, just experiencing. But most people find that difficult. So this is a much more active process. Manifesting, put your mind that wants to run away and think about unhappy, scary things. No. Come over here. We're going to actively perseverate on something healthy. Okay. Now, what this does is it creates the bigger gap between you and your mind, you consciousness and your mind. Every time you do this, you're asserting your dominion over the mind and consciousness, the light of it. In fact, when you ask, is that thing I'm saying to myself true? And you see it is not, right away, when you withdraw your belief in that belief, when you withdraw it, the emotion it was feeding dissipates and the power that you had been giving that belief comes back to you. The emotion that was uncomfortable goes away and it comes back to you. As consciousness, it brightens the fire of your lucidity so that more things you exert sovereignty over. Stuff that you used to say, I can't, it's beyond me, it's out of my control. Talking about your own emotions, the way you think and what you say to yourself. A lot of people say, I can't help it, I just worry. You can help it. But if you tell yourself you can't help it, you can't help it. It's all a matter of if you say so.
Yeah, it really comes back to the willingness, doesn't it, to want to do this and change. Because it's amazing. We like leaky buckets. And like all that water spurting out that's giving our energy away to all the different things that we're not wanting in our life. And the first thing we've got to do is plug the holes and just stop giving it away,
Yes, stop giving power. Stop giving your power, which is your attention, to what you do not want.
Yeah.
Then you make it fill your experience. Instead, man, this sounds so easy. Well, don't think about it. Okay, people will say that. Don't think about it. And I would have slapped them years ago before I had, really, what do you mean don't think? I just told you I can't stop thinking about it. Don't think about it. All right, but there was no division between me and my mind at the time. Okay, there was no space. There was the mind and it was me.
Of course. But it's a practice, isn't it? And an overstimulated mind is quite often a symptom of an overstimulated nervous system, which is a symptom of society and trauma that's laying underneath. And, it's not until we want to go, right, I want to get in there and start pulling the weeds out of the garden. And
the weeds that you pull out of the garden make the light of your consciousness brighter.
Exactly.
Every one of them, you become more and more lucid and more sovereign over your experience. And that's it. And I've seen people that I talk to because I do coaching, and when I tell people this, they go, but you're telling me it's all in my power. And I'm like, yeah, and they go, but you're telling me it's my responsibility too. Yes, I am. But why would you throw away your power in order to avoid the responsibility that's there anyway? It's going to still be there. You're just going to suffer. Don't set your power aside to avoid blame. Blame is a foolish concept. Blame is just counterproductive. Let's talk about natural consequences. If you think about scary things, it's going to be hard on your body and it's going to taint your entire experience. Don't do that.
I want to before we wrap up the podcast, I want to just switch into one last topic, and because obviously, you know, you spoke of your near-death experience, you spoke about your guides, we've mentioned Michael. Obviously, you know, many people listen to this podcast haven't had a near-death experience, obviously, or I'm sure there are many that have. But how do you work with your guides? What are your thoughts on helping others with it connecting to their own? Are you able to discuss a little bit about Michael as well?
Sure. Okay. Everyone has guides. Everyone has at least a guide. Your guide is already talking to you. You just don't know where in your consciousness to find it. Okay. You don't recognize the significance of the input. Right. And I like to point at the inkling. You know, when you're trying to understand somebody and you're using your background experience, your basic knowledge, and then lastly, you're using the inkling, you're using your hunching, you know, the hunch, like intuitive, leaning into that and listening there. That's where your guide is speaking to you. There's a layer of your consciousness, and all of my life, because my first experience with Michael was during the sexual assault at 5. I left my body, or was taken out of it, and went to this place where it was soft light, and there were these jeweled beings that I thought were birds because they had wings, but they were, you know, all around me, and it was bliss. And so because I had that experience while the body was having a very different experience, I assigned the meaning of my guide to that experience. I met my guide in this situation, is where I met him, and it was wonderful. And what was happening to the body is of very little consequence. Okay. But the thing is that once I discovered that level of awareness in my mind, it's like wiggling your ears. You don't, until you find the muscles, make the connections to know how to make your ears wiggle, you're not going to wiggle them. You got to find that same layer of your awareness where your guide is speaking to you. Some things that you can do, and it feels like hunches. It feels like intuition is what we call it. The guide will make you calmer. The guide speaks with a certain authority. A big thing is discernment, telling the difference between your mind chatter and your guide. Okay. Because the guide will have a different effect upon you, but the guide speaks very softly, so to speak. It's not with words. Usually it's not a voice. It's in concepts and images. And sometimes, like, in your mind, there will be a swirling of associated memories, and they're all connected. Okay. And the voice of the guide is like, you can think of the gust that swirled all of those memories to your attention. So you'd pay attention to them. Okay. Because there's connections between them that the guide wants you to notice. All right. So the guide can speak to you in a variety of ways. They can also have a voice. It's like a song in your head that won't stop playing. You hear it the same way you hear a song that won't stop playing in your head. In fact, my guide likes to use lyrics to get my attention. And I have like a chorus following me around through my day-to-day life, singing songs and lyrics in my head. So when a song starts hanging in my head and I haven't heard it lately, it's just perseverating, I'll examine the lyrics to see. And usually they have something to do with what's going on in my life. Okay. And so that's like the subconscious burping that up for my attention. So the problem is nowadays we have so much of our attention, you know, Guy, there is no world out there. All right. Everything is happening in consciousness, and then we project that experience out around us. So trying to change the outside world is really a lot like trying to clean your shirt by wiping the mirror.
I like that
Okay.
analogy. I like that one.
It's not going to work. All right. So what you have to do is clean out the mind clutter. All right. And then you will be more easily able to hear your guide because there's less chatter. Being the observer and shifting into identification as consciousness itself, the abiding as the metacogniter, will cause the shift. If you just keep catching yourself creating what you don't want, you'll see the mechanism of how it works. You go, I did it again. I expected that conversation to go badly, and it did. Okay. I got defensive because my sibling provoked all that old stuff from our childhood, and the conversation deteriorated. All right. This is all you can see yourself by what you expect. Expectations are critical because it goes without question with you when you expect it. It's not a hope or a dream, a wish. It's an expectation. You really think it's going to happen. And so your unexamined expectations are important too. So if you can catch yourself, really become very the reason I bring this up is because in order to hear your guide, you have to really pay attention to what's going on inside. You have to be more introverted. Okay. So if you can put half of your attention on the outside world and half of your attention on what's going on internally, you very quickly, one, discern yourself shooting yourself in the foot with your expectations and your self-talk. And you see it happening. So you go, oh, I see how that works. Now you can take control of it to make something better, replace it by changing what you're thinking. I mean, it's the same thing they've been telling us all along. Dr. Dwyer used to say, change the way you look at things and the things you look at change. It's true. I mean, it starts on the inside, what you're saying to yourself about a situation. So if you can devote more time, more energy, more attention to what's going on inside, it helps all the way around to cause the shift, and then everything quiets down in the mind, so the voice of the guide becomes clearer because there's not so much mind chatter, right? And your guide will make you feel at peace. The guide gives you a sense of authority. The guide comes through with a sense of authority, but it's quiet authority. Things you can do to get the guide to interact with you more. If you've spent most of your life ignoring your guide, you've had that gut feeling, I shouldn't not have, but you do it anyway most of the time. Okay, your guide doesn't talk as loudly because your guide does not want to usurp your will. That is a primary directive. You do not usurp the will of another. Okay, not especially of your ward, you're the one you're guiding. So ask the guide for more input. Say, I realize I haven't been responsive to you in the past, and I'm trying to be more responsive now. So I'm asking you to be more active and give me more input, please. Okay. And the guide will oblige you, but you want to not ignore it when he says something or she says something you don't want to hear.
Beautiful.
You want to do the thing you want to do, but you know you shouldn't, and you do it anyway. Okay. That doesn't help.
Yeah. No, I thank you. I appreciate it. That'll be very helpful for many people. I have no doubt.
I hope so.
So as we wrap up the podcast, is there anything you want to leave the listeners with? Any last thoughts? What we've been discussing today?
Anxiety gets all of its power over you from your attention. Pull the plug. Don't give it any more attention. Just resolve. You're not going to participate in that anymore. Not going to participate. You, consciousness, not going to participate anymore. And if you can do that, the shift will occur because you'll have to keep taking back power from your mind. All right. And that feeds the chooser. It's like you start out the observer and you observe and you observe, and then you catch yourself in the act of observing. You metacognite your own metacognition, and suddenly, all right, you've shifted. All right. And suddenly you have sovereignty and stuff that you'd say, I can't, my mind, I can't. You say, I've got this. I don't have to put up with this anymore. Okay. And it changes everything. It is life changing. And this is lucidity in the dream of the world. And if we could all do this, so much stress, anxiety, anger would fall away and we'd embrace each other. Make friends with everything that's happening. Make friends with it. Use it to fuel your lucidity. Eckhart Tolle basically says this. Make friends with it. Use it to fuel the light of your awareness, of your consciousness, of your awareness of yourself as consciousness itself. We've written a couple of books. One of them is Rise in Lucidity and Master Anxiety. If you're a fan of ASM, Michael dictated these books to me. Michael's the same voice who dictated ASM. All right? Same voice.
So are you referring to A Course in Miracles?
Yes. Right. Yes, A Course in Miracles. Same voice. When you read The Course in Miracles and then you read Rise, you're going to say, oh, yeah, it's the same voice. Okay? You can tell. It's exactly the same. But it's much more dense, whereas A Course in Miracles is a big, fat book that you have to read a whole lot to get through and get the nuggets out of. This is like really condensed and all nuggets, okay? But if you've read ASM and you've grokked it at all, Rise in Lucidity and Master Anxiety is for you. The next book in that takes it out of just the personal application of anxiety to learning to master your mind in general. And that's culling from your mind space the thoughts that attack your peace, that disrupt your life, that make things go not as well as they could. And that second book is called Master Your Mind and Rise. Both of these are available on our website at crackedpotpublishing.com. And there you can also sign up to do readings with me or just coaching or both. I do both. Look forward to helping people as much as I can. I'm 66 and I feel good. And I'm going to go full tilt boogie at delivering this message as hard as I can until I drop over dead. And then everybody should be very happy for me, please.
The links will be in the show notes for everyone below. And I have no...
Thank you, darling.
I have no doubt people will come across. Cailin, thank you so much. It's really wonderful to reconnect and have you on. And that was a beautiful podcast. I really think that there's some real great practicalities in that as we navigate these times in the world. And I really hope people jump into our work, that the things that we can offer and grab life by the scruff of the neck and make it happen.
Exactly. Lucidity is where it's at. It's like I catch myself thinking, anticipating something not going well. And now it's a whole different ballgame. I used to back off from stuff and I've always been, shy. And by shy, I mean elusive and enigmatic, sort of, but never timid. All right. I've never been timid. I'm just shy. I'm a little elusive, a very private person. Okay. So in the past, I always withdrew because of the PTSD. I would go, oh, this isn't going to go well. And I would withdraw and I wouldn't do it. And now I'm going like, to heck with that. Okay. No, I'm delivering this message. This is what I came back to do. I'm delivering it. And I can, Guy, I've been through so many assaults and so much stuff in my life. And to be where I am now, to be over at last the PTSD that kept me hiding from the world most of my life, simply because I decided I was not allowing fear anymore to run roughshod over me, consciousness. Okay, so yeah, it's where it's at. I believe that if we could really get mass lucidity going, people, it would sweep the world.
I don't doubt it.
It's subtle. Yeah. It's subtle at first. But the more you clean out the junk and interrogate your mind, the stronger the light of your presence and lucidity becomes. It's like, they used to call me the fountain as a kid because I cried over everything, you know? And now it's like, even grief. Yeah. I'm sad when one of my fish jumped out of the tank a week ago. And, when I found her on the floor dead, because it happened when I was away, I was like, oh, and I picked her up, clutched her to my chest. And it was like, oh, baby, you're sweet, so innocent, so beautiful. I so enjoyed you. Oh, and for like a whole day, I was bothered by it. I didn't cry. I just said, okay, she's in the perfect world now. I'm sharing her with Michael, who's waiting for me in the perfect world. So now when something dies, it's in the perfect world waiting for me. So it's okay. So even grief, doesn't prevail any longer. I've been dead. It's not me.
Thank you so
It
much.
is. Thank you, Guy.
Thank you, Cailin.
It's really great to see you again.
Likewise. Likewise.